right. So what I'm doing here, this is a two-part. The objective here is two things, right? I read a lot of books, and I actually legitimately read books. So I'm going to recap this book. I'm going to go over some notes that I took, some ideas, some suggestions, some recommendations, just so you can kind of see. I've been reading this book for I think it's been about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. Hold up, bring up. Oh, my camera's not working. That's okay. Yeah, the camera's not working, and that's okay. We're gonna leave it like that. But I have this book here, and the name of the book is Just Sell the Damn Thing. It's by Doberman Dan. I don't know exactly what his real name is, but one of my friends gave me this book, so I'm going to recap and give some ideas about this book, as well as help him understand what's going on in this book, because there was nothing really new inside of this book that I learned, and nothing away from the author, right? I respect and I appreciate his insight and what he's given inside of the books, but I'm doing this because I want this person to understand that it's nothing new here, right? The ideas don't matter if you're not applying and implementing the ideas, right? So just sell the damn thing, the proven contrarian formula to growing your business faster than ever without complex marketing campaigns, content marketing, social media blogging, or any of the online grunt work that rarely, if ever, results in getting new customers or the actual making of money, right? So even that title right there is like, I can just tell where that came from, but that's okay. All right. So the recap, it is, what's today? It's August 7th. So I'm recapping as of August 7th, right? So first and foremost, I want to say there is a major difference between reading a book and listening to a book, right? And this is, I can say this way too, because it's relevant to this book, right? So in the words of the author, right? Millennials are lazy bums or whatever, right? They say a lot of stuff about us, but one of the things that I can agree with is that reading a book and watching a video or listening to a book, those are completely different things, right? When you read a book, you grasp and you hold on to the content better. You just do, right? We want to be so lazy and want to, I don't want to read, but when you read a book, you grasp more, right? I was going through a training yesterday actually, by Dan Henry, and he mentioned the fact that when someone watches his webinar and someone reads his book, he's comparing the two. When they read the book, they convert 300% better than those that watch the webinar, right? What does that say, right? And that's one of the big reasons why I'm a huge fan of books, because books do that, right? A lot of people are like, I don't want to read a book. People are not going to read books. That's a lie. People still read and buy books. All right. Oh, do you have an audiobook? If I get a customer and I get somebody that's like, do you have an audiobook? And that's their only intent, I likely don't want them as a customer, right? If you're too busy to invest in yourself, you just want to listen to a book and that's a red flag. Okay. So first and foremost, I want to say, think about the last time you actually read a book, not just listen to a book or watch a video, right? Or listen to an audio, like actually legitimately read a book. And furthermore, like you deep dive, you actually taking the stuff inside of that book and implemented it, right? So think about that when you're trying to learn something new, right? Reading is still powerful, right? The best leaders, you'll find that they still read. They make time to read. When you go on these productivity hacks and these productivity things, one of the things that they always recommend is that you read more. There's power in reading. So not just listening to a book, not just listening to audios, actually reading a book. All right. Next, when's the last time you actually implemented a book, right? You're reading or you're listening to this thing. Like, when are you implementing it, right? You're taking the stuff that you're learning, the ideas, the concepts, and you're implementing, right? You're taking that thing. Oh, that's a good idea. Let me go implement it, right? A really good example is I'm working on my webinar recently, right? And everything that I pick up and I can find to improve, I implement that. ideally within the same day, right? Most of the time it's in the same hour, because I understand if I don't implement it now, it'll never get done. It'll never get done if I don't implement it now. So I'm always implementing, right? You go through your book, your content, you go through the thing one time, then you go through it again and you actually implement the ideas that come through, right? One of my goals this year was to actually implement. I set a goal not to read any new books. No new books. No new books was my intent. And just so you can kind of see, right, I have my goals written. I'm going to take a screenshot. I have my background as my goals. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. And I'm going to pull it up for you so you can see it, right? Here we go. Will that show? Okay, it's showing, but it's not zooming in. But it says right here, right? My goal, I speak in present tense. I read and implement one already owned book per month. No new books. I failed at this goal, but my intent was to read and implement one already owned book. One that I already own. I didn't want to do anything new, right? You can see there, the second goal is kind of blurry. I hate that it's blurry, man. I wish I could zoom in. The second goal, I have learned to implement it speed reading successfully, right? So I just want to bring that up. You must implement the information, right? It's highly important that you implement the information. It's not just about reading, not just about absorbing. It's about implementation. You got to implement and apply the ideas. All right. So next. So within the book, Just Sell the Damn Thing, right? Here, there was an interesting study, and the study found that the more people pay, the more they pay attention, right? The more they listen to that information. And we were just having a call the other day, and one of the attendees, he said, how come speakers never don't take, how come coaches always want money up front? And this is part of the reason why, right? Because the more you pay attention, right? The more you're paying attention to, right? And I'm going to see if I can find that right in this book. I can't find it. It was a good study because I'm going to showcase that study myself. Okay, here we go. So on page 10, the more you pay for it, the more you listen to it, right? He's talking about Gino. Who's Gino? So there are some interesting psychological reasons for that, right? In many or maybe even most markets, I believe we arrived at a zero value point. Definitely in the market I'm targeting for my Marketing Camelot membership. That means if you're following this give freebies away business model, you're at a significant disadvantage to any competitors who are following the just sell the damn thing model. There are interesting psychological reasons for that, which I'm going to tell you about. Not just to remind you of how brilliant I am, but also to remind you that I'm always right. We know that's true because it says so every month. From a logical standpoint, people should want to receive information for free, right? Especially if the same quality as information that costs money. If it's the same quality as the information that costs money. As it turns out, that's not the case. What people say they want and what they actually want are two different animals. In reality, they don't want the information for free at all. At least the smart ones, right? You know, they'll tell you they want the information for free, but what they do with that free information is vastly different than what they do with information they pay for. And I'm not the one who discovered this dichotomy. And psychologist and Harvard Business School professor Francesca Gino's book, Sidetracked, she shared several studies showing why people only trust information with a price tag. For example, Gino discovered from a psychological perspective, people attach quality with price. Her research has shown that when people invest money for information and advice, they pay attention to it and use it. They're much more likely to believe it's more valuable because they paid for it. On the other hand, she found that if the exact information is acquired for free, it's almost always ignored. This psychological impact, the psychological impact of price equals value equation gets even more interesting, right? According to Gino's research, I'll be right back. I want to highlight this. All right, so her book demonstrates if someone spends a lot of money for information, and if they also spend a lot of time and effort acquiring it, the information becomes highly valuable to them. And the value assigned is proportionate to the amount of money, time, and effort invested in acquiring it. Okay. Gino's research was originally inspired by something she observed in her father's medical practice. He invested a lot of time sharing information with his patients about how to eat to improve their health. Some of these sessions were paid and some were free. After a while, he started to notice a consistent trend. When patients paid for their advice, they actually paid attention to it and implemented it, almost to a fault. The patients who received the advice for free dismissed it. Listen, because of about 100 years of conditioning, doctors are perceived as the ultimate authority figures. However, even with all that juice behind it, doctors' advice is ignored if given for free. This fascinated Gino, so she decided to study it empirically in a whole slew of studies across all kinds of fields. Here's what her research proved. When people pay for information and advice, there's a high predisposition to use it. But when the exact same information is given away for free, the same quality, same quantity, same everything as the paid information, its perceived value is damn near zero and it's dismissed. Okay? Almost immediately. Therefore, if people only trust info they pay for, yet your first interaction with a new prospect is giving them free information, what does that say about your positioning and value in the marketplace? Okay. I want to highlight that and point that out. That's valuable. And I'm also going to purchase that book so I can have those studies and those statistics in there, right? So, Sidetrack, her book, Sidetrack. So thank you, Gino. All right. With that, this is why people charge high price, right? When you don't pay, you don't value the information. And that gives me a revelation too, right? You need to charge for everything. Stop giving away free advice. All right. Next, big emphasis on offline marketing. Same process, right? So I'm thinking like one of my colleagues is like, he's like, you don't need all this stuff. And inside of the book, it says you do need this stuff, right? You don't need complicated funnels and multi-step this, multi-step that, but people need stuff, right? And the book proved that people trust stuff, actual physical stuff, right? This is why it's so important to have a book. This is why it's so important to have things that people can touch, a sales letter, tangible things where you can reach people, right? Furthermore, an address, a business address where people can find and learn about you, a website, right? Is this person real? Book talked about these things. So same process, right? What I have here, this is the same process that, and he attributes this, which I respect. I really respect people that gives credit to the source. Same process within this book is the same process from Magnetic Marketing System by Dan Kennedy, right? The same process. Create an avatar, describe the avatar's ideal outcome, explore their motivators and pain points, pair their motivators and desires, right? It's the same process. Next, on page 27, and this is specifically for Ali. Page 27. Big and bold. He tells the truth. It's a lot of work. Most people are going to tell you it's not a lot of work. You don't need this. It's a lot of work. But that's how you become rich and wealthy, by putting in the work. I get frustrated when people tell you that you don't need to put in work. You do need to put in work. It's going to require work. It is a lot of work. It's going to take your time. It's going to take you investing. It's going to require your thoughts, your processing, sacrificing, right? No restaurants, no TV, right? Some of those things you're going to have to eliminate. No partying. It's a lot of work and you have to make those sacrifices, right? Next, and this was specifically for, here's the thing. If you get your offer, your big idea right, you can do well with half-ass copy. And what that means is your copywriting doesn't need to be amazing if you get your offer right. And how do you get your offer right? You make sure you have the right offer, right? You build the right systems, the right assets, you build the right stuff, and the copy won't matter as much. It all ties to the avatar. What do they want? And if you can serve them and give them what they want, the offer can carry it, right? The big idea, whatever you're delivering to them, can carry it. You don't need to become an expert copywriter, right? I think about people and they're like, copy is important, but it's not the most important. The avatar is the most important. Copy will strengthen your offer. It will help you, but it's not a necessity, right? If you get the offer right, you have those conversations, right? Go start having conversations, get your offer, start testing it, put it out to the market, start offering it to people. Next, this is really big. This is from Gary Halpert, right? Gary Halpert says motion beats meditation, right? So this is where most people mess up. They don't do anything. You have to do something. You have to move towards the goals, the objectives. Motion beats meditation. You don't want to just sit there, right? You've got to move. You've got to implement. You've got to do something. It's not all about ideas. Ideas are fine. Everybody's, oh, I got this amazing idea. Here's a thought. Here's this, here's that. Everybody has great ideas. That stuff is easy. That's easy. If we could get paid for ideas, nobody would be doing anything. It's the implementation of the ideas that matter. That's what matters, right? And sometimes some of us can't implement certain ideas, right? A really good example. I have great ideas for books, like book covers. I have great ideas for book covers, but I can't implement those. That's beyond my skill. That's beyond my expertise, right? I can write the book. I can write the content in the book. I can create videos, social media posts, YouTube videos. I can create all of those things, right? But when it comes to the artistic part, I can't do it. I can't even come close. You can tell, right? My books, you can tell the difference between when I created it and when I've done the art, when I've done it, versus when I've hired my graphic designer. He does a much better job than I do, right? Let's see. All right, next, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it perfect, right? Most people are so worried about getting it perfect. Oh, I need the entire picture. I need the full thing. No, you don't. You got to get it moving, right? And I was listening to one of Gary Halpert's interviews, and he emphasized this, right? He said, you're going to make mistakes. And I think it's somewhere in here, right? It is in here, right? If you're at point A, you want to get to point B. Before you can get to point B, you're definitely going to make X number of mistakes. So Gary Halpert's motto is, let's hurry up and start making mistakes. Let's hurry up and start making mistakes. Most people don't want to make any mistake, and they never get any progress because they're so paralyzed and afraid of making mistakes. They're so worried about it being perfect. They're so worried about the full picture, the whole thing. That's never going to happen, right? You got to move. You got to make some progress, right? One of the big things that I do is I implement a lot. People are like, Jerome, how do you do it? I make mistakes all of the time. I still make mistakes. But I'm implementing, I'm testing the market. I'm figuring out what works. Nobody has all the answers. We are all testing and trying things out, right? Some people can give us some ideas, some processes, some strategies on what work, right? Maybe even some roadmaps, but we still got to implement those things, right? All right, next. Don't worry about offending the dogs when you're selling to foxes. So that was another Gary Halpert quote. That's one that I really like because I've always been like this, right? I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think about me. Are you a buyer? Are you in my circle? Are you supporting me? Then I don't care how you feel or what you think. I don't care. And you shouldn't care either if you're selling to somebody, or you shouldn't care what people think. People are always, Jerome, all the time, Jerome, your message is too harsh, right? One of my someone just told me that I should talk to him like my daughter. It was good feedback. It was good feedback. But the way I talk is for people that I'm helping, right? And the people that I am helping, they tell me all of the time, Jerome, I really appreciate you. You're the only one that told me the truth. You changed my life. What you said was really helpful. I didn't appreciate hearing it. I didn't appreciate the way you said it, but that's what I needed. That's what I hear, and that's what I get all of the time. And I will not shift my messaging to try to help one person that's in their feelings when I'm impacting other people to become leaders and to become great in their lives, right? I won't do that, right? And those people that have all of that criticism, typically, how many lives are you affecting, right? So I have my colleague, and he was like thinking about, he heard that from Dean Graziosi. And that's one of the best quotes I heard, right? Because people will criticize, but what are you doing, right? How many lives are you impacting? You don't like the way that I'm saying something, you go do it your way and come back and show me your results, right? I have results. I have proven results to prove that what I do works. And if you got a better way, go do it your better way. But here's the thing. I can almost guarantee you that your way, right? Especially if you're criticizing, that your way will not work better than my way. I can almost guarantee you that. All right. So what's next? We already talked about that one. Start making mistakes. We talked about that. Next, this is another Gary Hopper thing, right? Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And inside of the book, it says that he was quoting his friend Joachim Disposada, who was quoting Zig Ziglar, who was quoting Gilbert Chesterton. So I don't know whose quotes that is, but it's a good quote. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Go do it, right? Even if you mess it up, but at least you're doing something. It goes back to the other quote, motion beats meditation. Next, this was really good, right? And this gave me perspective. Boomers control 70% of disposable income. They said millennials are broke, which most of them probably are, right? So this book was published in 2017, about 6 years ago. So there's probably some changes, but probably not a big change, right? So this is a big reason why I like to go. And this is why I like offline marketing, offline media, right? Boomers control 70% of disposable income. Millennials are broke. That's what he said. He like really trashed the millennials, but he had some good points and he had good data on that as well, right? When I run my book workshop, a lot of people say, why can't we just do an ebook? This is why you can, but this is why you shouldn't, right? And think about yourself. How often do people go and access and legitimately read through that ebook, right? They just download it. That's it. They don't use it. So I want you to keep that in mind. Next, one good offer, right? All you need is one good offer. So I'm telling my colleague, fix your offer, work on your stuff. And you're never going to know if the offer is good, right? You can test it, right? You can always make it better, but you got to get it out there. You got to start testing it, seeing if people like it. Find out if people like it. Make the offer. Test it. You got to get different iterations. Do and implement, right? You got to make sure you're doing. You can't just sit there thinking about ideas, working on processes and big ideas. You got to like actually implement, right? You got to put the stuff in action. Like do it. I don't know how. And people are like, Jerome, you can't just say do it. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You got to do it. Oh, I don't have the fourth. I don't know. Like something might happen. So what? Do something. You got to do something. If you pay attention, right? You study success. The successful people. They're all doing something. They're taking action. Nothing is perfect. You work towards excellence, but it'll never be perfect. And that's okay, but you got to do something. You can't just think about the ideas. You can't just talk. You got to do something, right? I really love the book Traction for this, right? There are different personality types. You've got visionary, right? In business. You got different personality types in business. You got a visionary and you got an integrator. Integrators help you put the ideas into place. Integrators are rare and they are expensive because they're worth the money, right? The ideas mean nothing without the integrators. You need both. But an integrator can do a lot better than a visionary, right? Because an integrator is more realistic. They're more practical in the understanding of how things work. Right? An integrator might not tell you what you want to hear all of the time, right? But they'll make it work. They'll make it work. They bring you to reality. Next, a really big thing inside of the book was write by hand, right? So I talk about this a lot. It's highly important that you write, but he said, write your sales letters by hand, right? So I keep telling people, like, make sure you write, because it's having a certain impact. When you write things down, it has an impact, right? So write by hand and write your sales letters by hand. Next, if you don't have a newsletter, you don't have a business. This is a really good point. And this shocked me a little bit too. I'm like, man, I don't have my newsletter running. I need to get my newsletter back up and running. Right? So this is a good way to stay in touch with your customers and prospects, is by your newsletter. At least a monthly newsletter, right? And not just any old digital newsletter that you throw up once a week. We're talking about a real physical newsletter. Okay. I just got a customer contacting me the other day because of my newsletter. This person, this contractor, deals with $1 million companies. And he's going to hire us to help him set up a marketing campaign, all because of my newsletter. Right? Next, follow your inactive customers consistently. And one way you can do that is by your newsletter. But another way, you can send mail, you can send campaigns to them, you can send promotions. Don't be afraid to follow up with your inactive customers. Right? Next, nothing good comes from indecision. Nothing good comes from it. You have to make a decision. Pick something and do that. Right? Even if you pick wrong, that's okay. So inside of the book, he talked about driving, right? Driving to Cleveland. And he's like, you know what? Or Ohio or something like that. But he's like, you know what? If you pick, you know what? I want to drive. So let me turn it into my own analogy, right? I want to drive to California, right? I'm going to head that way. But on my way to California, you know what? I changed my mind and now I want to go to Oregon. All I have to do is change my target, right? But if I never get moving, I never made any progress. And this is where most people struggle, and this is where most people mess up. Most people mess up because they're busy thinking about it incorrectly, right? They're not making progress. They're not moving at all. Okay. I have a meeting. Let me get through these last ones. Go straight for buyers, not freebie seekers. This is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of books, right? Big fan of books because of this. People buy books. You actually have to buy the book. And even if they don't buy the book, a way around that is free plus shipping, right? Let them pay for the shipping. Verify that they have money and they can pay. They're willing to pay for what it is that you do, right? And I like books because I want to charge you for the book because I want to send you other stuff in the mail, right? You should do the same thing. Okay. Buyers outperform freebie seekers 4-1. And yeah, so that wraps up my recap of just sell the damn thing. And this is not a recap. These are just some insights that I pulled from the book myself. And I wanted to send my my colleague because he's like, I need him to make some progress. Motion beats meditation, right? We've got to do something. We've got to take action. Got to implement. It's important, right? The longer you sit, the longer your list will get, right? And one of the things that I learned from Dan Kennedy is like, this stuff never stops. Some degrees, it never stops. They're always working, right? So Alex Hormozy, I've been listening to his wife, Leda Hormozy. They're like, it never stops. It never stops. Dan Kennedy always said, it never stops, right? Doesn't mean we can't stop, and live a good life and enjoy ourselves. But if you want success, you want to be a high achiever, this stuff never stops. They're always working. Think about it. Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, when he was still around, right? Elon Musk, they're still working. Okay? So, with that, I appreciate you watching. My name is Jerome Lewis, and I will see you on the other side. Before I go there, right? If you are interested, right? If you need help with growing your business, right? Getting more customers, getting more clients, getting more leads, I can help you with that, right? And all you have to do is reach out to me by emailing me at, let's see what I can do. So let me type in my email address for you. Take this. If you want my help with anything, here's my email address. Here's the email address. If you need my help, all you have to do is reach me there. Send me an email. Let me know what you want help with. And more than likely, we can help you. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you